What is up, homies? Welcome back to another episode of the Heroes Reforged Podcast. This is we can call this our pre-Superman episode, and I'm very excited to talk about this.
Pre-Soups Recoup.
Pre-Soups Recoup, absolutely.
Good name.
We're going to be diving into some of the interviews that James Gunn and company have been doing about Superman, and we're doing this primarily because why, Hector? Please brag.
I'm sorry.
I hate you.
I feel really bad.
Don't feel bad. It's not your fault.
Yeah.
No, I
This
tried.
is rad.
You
I
tried.
I tried. But later this week, on behalf of Nerdist, I'm going to be doing the press junket for Superman. So I'm getting to go and see the movie, and then there's going to be a Q&A with James Gunn after. And
then you're going to invite him to be on our show, right?
Absolutely. Honestly,
Yeah.
I am.
Oh,
I honestly
yeah, that's
am.
right.
I honestly am.
Why am I going to put in a formal
James.
request at Warner Brothers when you can just ask him?
I'm going to ask
Hey,
him to his
James,
face.
look, we just interviewed Dan Trachtenberg.
Yep.
I was going to call him
Trandachtenberg. That's a cool name for a fucking
You need
Transformer.
a Predator, Pritter,
You need to call
Thrillers.
Robert Kirkman,
I need to
the
call
other
Robert
guy we
Kirkman.
interviewed,
Yeah,
who's
yeah.
working on Transformers to make that a name.
Exactly.
Robert Workman. But yeah, we're doing that. Plus, you guys had a pretty cool event over the weekend that I want to talk about. But yeah, we're at this place where like our next episode, one of us will have seen Superman,
Yeah.
and then we'll all have seen Superman.
Yeah.
So this is the very last time we're kind of hanging out as friends and going like, we haven't seen this movie and we haven't begun this journey.
This is the last time we're hanging out in a pre-DC universe.
Yeah, honestly.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Because we've
Kind
had
of.
Creature Commandos.
Yeah. But again, the whole feeling of this is that it's going to be very different. So so anyway,
Interesting.
we pulled some stuff that I think is noteworthy to talk about. I mean, even some of our fans have been like, do a reaction to the Rolling Stone interview. Like they just wanted us to pull up the Rolling Stone interview and like read through it
and read it
and then react to it. Whoa, crazy.
Here's your reaction.
Making movies?
So that's kind of what we're doing right now. But you guys should kick us off with what you did over the weekend.
So Friday night, we were all invited.
Yeah.
Because on Friday, it was the 50th anniversary of Jaws, which is crazy. Jaws is an incredible film. And we were invited to go to a very special screening at the Alamo Drafthouse in downtown LA. And unfortunately, you couldn't go.
It was a movie
which was a
party.
bummer.
They called it a movie party,
yeah.
which is really cool.
If you've never been to a screening at Alamo Drafthouse, they have regular screenings and then they have the movie parties.
Yeah.
Where usually they encourage people to like come in pajamas and you're a little bit more interactive with the film. Like if you know the lines, repeat them out loud.
Yes, yes. Normally, Alamo will kick you out if you're loud.
they're like ArcLight, how ArcLight used
Yeah,
to be.
they don't like phones talking anything. They will kick you out if they don't like
Which
that
I
you're loud.
respect
I love it
deeply. But it's a really cool theater if you're in LA or if you have an Alamo Drafthouse. I know there's only a few around the country. You should definitely go to it. They're really, really fun. So it was a great time. We got there. There was a meet and greet with Quint and Chief Brody, which was really fun.
Those guys killed it. They were
so good.
Yeah.
Especially Quint was just
Quint,
like,
he looked so much like that.
oh my
the
God.
actor. It was
Yeah,
crazy.
just like Robert Shaw.
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
unbelievable how
Yeah.
much he looked like him.
It was cool.
They had some stuff on display.
I drank the chum.
Yeah, you did. You drank out of the chum bucket. I was like,
Ew, dude.
it was pretty gross. And then we walked over to the theater, and we did not know this going in. There was a gift bag waiting for us.
Oh, hell yeah, brother.
Not
just any gift bag.
The PR team at Universal made like one of the greatest bags I've ever seen
Hey, you
in
get
my
one for
life.
me?
As a matter of fact, we did.
I need you to open this.
Dude,
Holy shit.
you should unbox this.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
It is literally the greatest gift bag we've ever received at anything.
Really quick to give a little bit of context, you used to work with Veronica Baker.
Yeah.
Wait, Hector, you gotta
is
open
now
it.
at
I didn't want to
Universal.
block the whole thing. I'll put it up.
Who is now Universal, and she made it a point to make sure that we were invited. So thank you again so much for inviting us,
Your
Veronica.
homegirl.
Your homegirl that used to work with at
Yeah.
DC All
Yeah.
Access.
Veronica's the best dude. She was a great boss.
Yeah,
And
she's
a great
really,
boss.
really
And
nice.
she's the daughter of legendary makeup artist Rick
Baker.
Baker,
No
who
big deal.
like when I didn't know that when I first met her and started working with her. And then I saw her pictures for Halloween, and everyone was like, "What the fuck, dude? This is incredible."
This is S tier.
She was like one of the disfigured nurses from the Twilight Zone, and everyone was like, "This is the most." Oh, wait a minute. Okay, her dad
that makes sense.
Her
That
dad
makes
that
sense.
goes all out every
Yeah.
Halloween.
Yeah.
But she's the best. She was super super cool.
Yeah.
And she hit me up. She goes, "Oh, I heard you're gonna be out of town, so you can't
Yeah.
make it." But I said, "I'm sending my boys."
Send him
Boys.
And here's how we
held
knew
it down.
the gift bag was going to be good. When we checked in, the woman at the counter was like, I hope you guys like these gift bags. She was like, these gift bags are good.
Oh, I didn't even hear that.
Yeah,
part.
she did. She did. Well, so that goes on your head. That's a little shark fin that goes on your head.
Hell yeah,
They encourage us to wear that.
Now we definitely need that 3D Blu-ray so we can have a viewing party at your house.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. It's so stupid and so cool.
But they encourage us to wear those, which is really cool.
Yep.
Everybody in the movie was wearing them.
Yeah.
That's
Well, we
annoying.
all had them. Everybody wore them.
Wow.
They did a trivia sequence before the movie, and people wore them. But then, as the movie went on, people started taking them off.
Yeah,
So.
for sure. This is already worth it just for that alone.
But keep going.
Keep going.
Keep
It's
going.
like
There's so
Alamo
many.
Draft House, and then da-dun, da-dun.
There's so many. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going.
What do we have here? Oh my gosh.
I'm gonna color the fuck out of this book.
That's
It is
hilarious.
All right. Keep going. Keep going. We got a coloring book.
hilarious. And then I've got
Little gift
Jaws,
card.
$15 off of Vineyard Wines.
Yeah, they did a collaboration.
No, Vineyard Vines. What is that?
There
Is
was
that
a special wine that they didn't give us.
Oh, dope.
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, say less.
They didn't give
My
us the
God.
wine,
No,
unfortunately.
they did. There's one in there.
What the heck?
Oh, well,
What, did you drink it?
no, but it's not in there. I'll get it to you.
What the heck's this? What the heck?
Oh, it's a bath bomb.
A
Yeah.
bath bomb boat. We're gonna
Yeah,
need
that's
a
a
bigger
bath
We're
bomb.
gonna need a bigger one.
bigger bath bomb. Oh my god, dude! The little people, the Fisher Price. Is this Fisher Price? Yeah, Fisher Price. Mattel, like Jaws, little people.
And it's got the little
That's
boat in there. Yeah.
hilarious,
It's pretty,
dude.
it's very cool.
It's like, oh no, he's getting eaten by the. I'm like,
Spoilers.
What sicko
Spoiler
would
alert,
give this to
just
their
in case.
preschooler? That's so funny, dude. This stuff is dope. Speaking of, the
Yeah.
little golden
Big shark,
book,
little boat.
I still haven't read that, so I don't know if it's scary or
a
not.
book of opposites.
You know what's really funny is like I unboxed this stuff and then I watched the movie again last night with my girlfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I put in the Blu-ray and it says rated PG, parental guidance suggested. I'm like, I'm not showing this to an 8-year-old.
No.
Are you kidding me?
That's why I saw it
crazy.
as an
Yeah.
8-year-old, and that's why
Yeah.
you saw me
Oh my God.
squirming during
Oh my
the
God.
movie.
Oh my God. Watching this movie with Augustine.
I was like shriveling into myself.
I was laughing hysterically.
This is a like Funko Pop version of the thing, so the
Yeah.
characters all kind of look like
Funko
this.
Pops.
which is
Yeah,
very
yeah,
cute.
yeah. Okay.
But I skipped to the end and it says the shark comes back. Da-da. That's
Whoa.
adorable.
For three
Spoiler
sequels.
alert.
For three
Spoiler
sequels.
alert.
Then we have this contraption. What in the
It's
hell?
a popcorn bucket,
baby. Also, it would look really cool if you just hung that on your wall.
Actually, dude. Yeah.
On top of
That's
look at that
rad.
shit.
Fucking rad.
Look at that. Hey, you know what you should do? You should hang it and then put these inside of the mouth.
There you go.
That sounds like a good deal to me.
And we know
amazing.
Abby loves sharks, so this is
Yeah, dude,
perfect
that's
for
like-
I
Abby.
wanted that popcorn bucket so bad. I was
Yeah.
ready to fight for it.
Yeah.
That's like the fun stuff. There's another fun thing in here. What the heck?
Yeah, get that
What
one.
the heck's this thing?
That's
That's a water
the
bottle.
limited edition sipper that they're selling
Yeah,
at
at
Universal
Universal
Studios.
Get out,
for the
dude.
50th. It's really
Look at
cool.
that.
It's like a little chibi shark.
Dude.
And you
And
know,
the water bottle is like the tank that blows
Yeah,
up Jaws
blows
at
up
the
in
end.
its mouth.
It is
Yeah.
so sick.
Yeah.
I was ready to fight people for the popcorn bucket and,
And that
this.
thing, yeah.
And then I looked in the bag and I was like, oh,
Yeah. The bag was so heavy.
you got a little koozie, bro.
Little koozie,
Little beer
koozie,
koozie.
And there's
koozie,
some,
and
there's some
sunglasses.
shades in there.
a little
That's just a keychain,
little
I
Vineyard
think.
Vines
Yeah.
keychain,
Yeah.
and then really the big show, which
The
is
big
like
show.
I mean,
Huge
cool.
show.
That's
my God.
limited
Dude,
edition
from Mondo.
Mondo Blood and Water.
Wow.
One is transparent blue, one is
Yep.
transparent red with like little black kind of lines swerving throughout
Yep.
it. Adam had actually bought one right before.
I bought it on the way to the Alamo Draft House.
Yeah.
And we get to the bags and Augustine goes, man, I hope the vinyl's not in here. And sure enough, he goes, bloop. And I was like, fuck.
That's the first thing I saw, fucking vinyl.
But I did get a notification that Mondo refunded me, so thank you,
Okay,
Mondo.
good.
and then
dude.
the 4K.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the only
The
thing that's
50th anniversary
And the only thing
edition.
that's missing
you know what it is the
is the
3D
3D
version.
The 3D
Is the
version.
3D
Where's the 3D, baby?
Yeah.
Talk about. I mean, I still remember seeing the 3D version when it came out a couple years ago.
Yeah.
When I tell people how special it is, like
It's so good.
Yeah.
it's such a special 3D.
It's so
conversion.
annoying that it's just sitting on a server at Universal somewhere.
somewhere. It's
Like,
it's really great.
We
It's
need to just
really
make
great.
fanboys, and it's just us trying to steal the 3D copy of Jaws.
Basically,
should-
we're gonna Mission Impossible it.
You know how many sequels we could make? Because nothing comes out in 3D anymore.
Yeah,
We'd
yeah.
have a whole anthology of films of stealing 3D
Yeah.
copies of movies. It'd be the
Oh
best.
my god, this is amazing.
So
dude.
yeah,
This
we
is-
got you one, Hector. We were thinking about you while we were
Yeah.
out
This
there.
is easily the best gift bag I've
I'm
ever
telling
Dude, it's
you,
so
right?
good.
for any kind
It's
of a
disgusting how good it is.
Wow.
And I've been thinking about doing, I don't know if I'll end up doing it, but I had been wanting to do a Jaws like viewing party at my house in the backyard.
Do it.
And I was like, I'm just going to put all this stuff to display. Oh, jacuzzi.
Y'all have a pool? Perfect.
There you go.
That's all you need.
Put a little red blood coloring.
That's all you need.
Yeah.
All you need. So yeah, very cool. Watching the movie again, it was very, very fun. There was only like 3 people had never seen it before. I had not seen it since they were kids.
Yeah.
Everyone else had seen it, so it was fun. But sitting next to Augustine watching that movie,
it was great. Yeah, it still gives me the heebie-jeebies, man. We talked about this in the review that we put on Instagram.
Yeah,
that movie is so good. It still gets me scared after 50 years of the movie existing. It's so good.
And like you guys are saying, even like knowing Bruce the Shark doesn't work.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Like knowing it's
how janky it is.
Knowing it's a janky robot, and it's like that film.
It's still scary as fuck.
My girlfriend was like, I can't believe how effective it still is.
Yeah,
like the same reaction you had basically.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
And also we posted that on Instagram, and then the Jaws official like site said we drink to your legs. I don't know what that means.
Well, because in the movie they toast to their scars. Remember, like we toast to our scars.
Okay. So we drink to your leg. I was like, wait. Are you gonna chop my legs off? You gonna bite my legs off? And
they should have said, "We toast to your scars." It is weird that they're like, "We'll drink to your legs."
Or maybe in the movie they say legs. I could be wrong.
Yeah, maybe.
That's great.
There's also a national. I have not watched it, but there's a National Geographic documentary coming out that's like celebrating the 50 years of Jaws.
Jaws at 50.
And after the movie, it auto played the making of.
Yeah.
And I had forgot how much footage they actually shot of real sharks.
Yeah.
In Australia, and one of it included like the whole shark tank, the cage sequence at the end with Richard Dreyfuss's character.
Yeah.
And the footage that they got, because the shark, I guess, got stuck trying to take down the tank.
Yeah.
And that's why he ended up crashing and smashing the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's really fun to watch all that stuff. And they even have a featurette how they did the restoration, I think like 10 years ago.
So there's a third disc, and I already opened my 4K.
Yeah, it's the same one.
It's the same one, right? So that documentary is in that 4K.
It is,
Includes Jaws at 50, the definitive inside story, which is so
definitely.
cool.
So if you don't want to stream
cool.
it is on the disc.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, they have a description for the movie, and then they have a whole description for the new documentary.
Very cool.
Just
That's
for that.
so cool, dude.
Yeah.
You know what else I liked about this too? I saw that they were like, it's in theaters, get the 4K, and then they're like, it's also going to be on Peacock or NBC. Like they were just showing it.
Yeah.
And they were like, tune in to watch it live. Like they should do that with more special features behind the scenes stuff. I thought that was great.
I agree.
But that's awesome, guys. I was very jelly, but it looked like such a
you
fun
got
event.
the goods,
yeah, dude.
You
What am
got
I
the
jealous
goods.
about?
Yeah.
That was awesome.
You just missed on free food and drinks.
Yeah, actually, they did give us free food and drinks.
that's
Which I didn't know until the end of the movie, and I was like, "Is he going to bring my bill or what?"
No.
And Augustine goes like, "No, it's free." And I was like, "Oh, okay. I would have ordered another Coke."
This is the greatest. This is the greatest day. The other thing that we got going on that we can talk about, because by the time this comes out, I get we can do it in kind of a non-spoiler way. We all saw Ironheart.
Oh yeah,
we didn't talk about that
Dude,
yet.
we are so
And
busy.
we saw Elio.
Holy crap!
And we saw Elio. You and I saw Elio, which we can talk about.
Yeah.
Had the lowest opening ever for a Pixar movie.
That sucks.
Broke my heart.
I was
broke my heart.
surprised, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I was not, because
It's an
I have
unknown quantity.
not seen a ton of advertising for that film.
No, and you're correct.
I
It has
think,
not been there.
I think we can talk about that for a second, but I think it's a combination of that. And I also think it is true that like Disney, because of the pandemic and because of the way that things have been going the past couple of years, has really trained families and audiences to be like, well, it'll be on Disney Plus.
Yeah,
It'll be on Disney Plus in a month. It'll be on Disney Plus in a month and a half, in 6 weeks, in 4 weeks,
I have
whatever
too
it
many
is.
thoughts about that I don't
I
want to
know.
talk about right now.
I know. But like, I really think that hurts
Absolutely.
the new original films.
Yeah. Especially one that's this good.
It's so good.
Elio's good,
And I was
man.
happy to see, though, people that went to go see it have been posting about how good it is. So I was like,
That's
okay,
good.
it's not just me loving
Yeah.
like the fact that it was a little Mexican kid, the fact that it dealt with space. Those are 2 Hector favorites right there. 2 Hector favorites. No, the movie's great. I saw white people talking about how good it was. So that's
That's how you know
the
it's
proof in
good.
the pudding.
That's how you know it's
testament. That's
good.
the proof in the pudding. So yeah, Augustine and I went to go see it, and we saw it in 3D, and the 3D was
3D
I'm
spectacular.
bummed because I have a little bit of
Gorgeous.
downtime in between doing a couple things today, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh, maybe I'll go to Burbank and see it
Yeah,
in 3D.
yeah.
No 3D showings.
really
No way.
Yeah, I was like,
in
what the hell?
Burbank?
What is this? Yeah, there's
that's
3 theaters in
crazy.
Burbank, and not a single
That's
one has it in
crazy.
3D. And I'm like,
That's crazy.
so sad. What are we doing here?
AMC.
What are we
Get
doing?
on it.
Come on.
Cut it out with that Nicole Kidman shit and put some more 3D screenings, okay? More
It's
time.
only
for-
hour 25 minutes. Come on.
Golly.
Everybody cheers at that ironically.
I know.
Nobody
Nice.
actually
Not
likes
sincerely.
that thing.
So then now going back to Ironheart, I'm also bringing it up because later today I'm going to be going to the premiere, and I'm my girlfriend's plus one. She got an invite, and I get we didn't get an invite to it, which is totally okay, but it's something that I feel like like we would have loved to have seen up on the big screen. I don't know if they're showing the first 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Probably the first 3.
Right? Because they're dropping the first 3 on Disney Plus. But
like a 90-minute movie, basically, at that point.
But let's just talk about Ironheart, because
hold on.
have seen it all. Let's talk about just a non-spoiler
It comes comes out on Friday.
The first 3 episodes.
Or Wednesday.
The first 3 episodes.
We're good.
So we can talk about those, but even a non-spoiler, just the whole series, I loved it. I thought we had a great time watching it. Like we talked about how surprisingly good it was.
Yeah.
And in another case of, are they kind of burying this because we haven't seen as much advertising? The same with Elio. No, I mean it's a really awesome, good time.
Yeah.
And the action was great, and the emotion was fantastic, and the effects were phenomenal.
Yeah.
Anytime Riri was suiting up in that iron suit, it felt like those old Iron Man movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
those
really
old
did.
Iron Man movies, the classic Iron Man movies, the first ones.
Old Iron Man movies.
They're old.
Hector, you always like to point out how old we are. Those movies are old.
When Dominique Thorne was on Good Morning America, and she was like, my little brother was born like a few months before the first Iron Man movie.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, we're old.
Yikes.
We're old.
Yikes.
We're old.
I would say I came into the show expectations low, hoping that it was good though. My in reality, I was like, okay, this is, we've been burned in the past with Disney Plus shows. I was hoping that it was going to be incredible. Expectations were, very, very mid-tier, but I was blown away by the show.
Yeah.
I think the show had a lot to say. It's very clearly, we talked about this in the review too. It's very clearly well thought out.
Yes.
And I personally feel like I could feel Ryan Coogler's fingerprints all over this thing. It was so cool. The music was rad. The way it was shot was incredible. Adam, you kept saying about how it feels very like filmy.
Yeah.
How it didn't feel like that super clean kind of digital look, which I think helps the VFX.
I think so.
I think that's what we were seeing a lot of. Yeah. Super smart move. The characters felt organic and natural. Riri felt good. Like, I didn't really have any strong feelings towards Riri, especially after Wakanda Forever. I was just like, she felt kind of like tacked on to that movie. To me, she felt tacked on. But in this movie, she's her own character. And I mean, the standout character is Natalie. Natalie, the AI, is incredible. So yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, I really like the show too. I was surprised by a lot of it. I wouldn't even say I had low expectations. I kind of had no expectations because it was so. The lack of advertising kind of made me forget that it was coming out.
Same here.
Because I had been thinking like, oh, okay, so we had like, what did we have this year from Marvel? Okay, we got Fantastic Four, and we had Thunderbolts. What else is coming out? Oh yeah, Ironheart. I completely forgot. So when we got those screeners, I was like, all right, cool, let's watch it. Like I'm not going to formulate any expectation. I'm just going to hope that it's good. And there was like a little bit in the back of my mind. I was like, well, maybe there's a reason why they have not been advertising it much. But I feel like after watching all of the episodes and understanding the story, I can kind of see maybe where there were some challenges in figuring out how to market it accurately without mismarketing it as something else.
Right.
So it's like, I don't necessarily want to give them a pass because at this point they've marketed 35 projects. They should know how to market these things. I just wish that they would have just maybe done a little bit more effort to put stuff out to make people more aware. So my hope is that when people watch the show this week, at least the first 3 episodes, that they walk out of it going, that was not at all what I was expecting. It was different, but also better. And I think the visual effects were great. The music especially was really, really good.
Spot on.
And I thought it was a really great mix of humor, of drama, of action. I don't know, like maybe it's because my expectations were basically at ground level that it just kind of won me over And I think also part of it is like, it's not complicated in the sense that it's trying to like do too much.
Right.
I feel like sometimes these comic book shows or any big IP, they're trying to do a lot because they really want to convince you and make you feel like you're watching something. It's different than Andor. Andor from the ground up is built as a very complex, sophisticated show, but it's also made by incredibly sophisticated filmmakers and creators. And sometimes I feel like with other shows, whether it's DC, Marvel, even some other Star Wars stuff, they're trying to make it really sophisticated. And when I watch it, I'm going, you should have just simplified it.
And it doesn't need to be, right?
And I think that's the strength of Ironheart is that they knew what they were making and they just leaned into that. And I think it ended up being a better product because of that. So I'm hoping that it really just wins people over by being so unexpected.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, did you want to say something? You want to chime in?
I was just gonna say that, like, not to say that this movie, this show is like dumb or too simple.
No, not at all.
Like this show really stands out in the character development and like the character's story. Like
it's
these
not super
characters,
plot heavy. It's
not
super
plot heavy.
Plot
They're not
complex,
Here's the
twisty,
thing.
turny.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
That surprises.
It doesn't
Yes.
focus on Iron Man, which is I think is what people are afraid of. Is a character who's so similar to Iron Man. They're just like, oh, it's going to be another Iron Man. No way, dude.
Yeah.
Riri, her story, her
Culturally,
family,
it's different.
culturally,
Yeah.
everything. It stands out on its own.
Yep.
And I think that's what I loved most about this show is that it's not relying on Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man.
100%.
Riri is standing out on her own and she's killing it. I have good things to say about the show.
I was kind of explaining a little bit of Ironheart to my girlfriend because we all watched Wakanda Forever a couple years ago. So like that was really everybody's introduction to her at that larger stage. But I was telling her, I was like, in the comics, she had an AI that was, because she came out onto the scene at a time in the comics where Tony Stark was thought to be dead. Iron Man was gone. And when she showed up, she had an AI that was all of a sudden took the form of Tony Stark. So for many years, fans were like, okay, if Robert Downey Jr. is out, either for a movie or a TV show, would they bring him back to be the AI? Like, that seems so crazy astronomical because his paycheck alone is like $50 million or whatever. I'm like, you can't do that.
The whole budget of the whole 6 episodes will be just his paycheck.
So I'll give you a spoiler, and this is to sort of set you up in case there's any diehard comic book fans that are like, they're going to do it. They brought him back for Doctor Doom. They're going to slip it into his contract. He's not in the show. That Tony Stark is not the AI. And I think that's good because like you're saying, it focuses on Riri.
Yeah.
You can do more of that stuff in the comic book world. But for a show like this, I think for her to really stand out as her own character, and like you said, Adam, it's still full of surprises. Surprises so much that I'm like, maybe that's why they weren't advertising certain parts of the show, because they're like, well, we want this dynamic between these characters to be a surprise. Even like the Alden Ehrenreich character, right, from the young Han Solo, who's in the show. People are like, the diehards are going to know what's going on, but it's not right out of the gate. Right. You know what I mean? So there's like certain reveals and there's certain surprises, but I wouldn't say that it's like a plot heavy, twisty, turny thing. And I was so happy that like everything you guys are saying, that the vibes are there.
Yeah.
We were focusing on Thunderbolts, and then we really were looking at the horizon. We're like, the next thing is Fantastic Four. It's like, it's coming out in between in this weird time, and it's 3 episodes a night, which is kind of cool because that's kind of how we saw it. We saw it like at 3 at a time, and it really worked. It really, really worked.
And it's also hard because it is coming out in the middle of like Jurassic World coming out, Superman coming out. There's eyes in a lot of different places right now.
Yeah. So I'm hoping that whatever they measure the metric of success for, that, because when we were done, dude, we were like, bro, give us a season 2 immediately. Immediately. We were like, where's season 2? Where's a movie like sequel announcement? Where's something? But now Marvel's in this really weird place where like, because I even said to my girlfriend, I'm like, well, they're not going to be at Comic-Con.
Yeah.
And she was like, well, why not? Why aren't they announcing? I'm like, they cannot announce what comes next because it's like a post-Endgame thing.
Yeah.
Like if they had the year at Comic-Con before Avengers Endgame, if they had said, all right, guys, we're coming out of the gate with WandaVision. She's back. And now she's going to be in a TV world and she's dealing with the grief. It's like it's spoiling what happens in Endgame. So they're really, I think, tight-lipped right now. And they're going to be for the next couple of years.
Oh, yeah.
Avengers Doomsday doesn't come out to the end of next year, Christmas. Secret Wars a year after that, Christmas.
And
it's
between
like
that, Spider-Man.
And Spider-Man. So it's like they can't be like Ironheart season 2. Here's the synopsis. In a post-Secret Wars world, Riri decides, you can't. They can't. Is she going to be in those movies? Are we going to, I have no idea. But all of this to say that like the show was like a breath of fresh air. Super great. And I really, really hope people like our YouTube reactions. And I really hope that people like the show. So
I think they will. It's going to be interesting to see the internet's reaction after what we just saw in the the later side of the season. I want to be as vague as possible, basically. In the later side of the season,
people only got to wait a week, brother. Like they're getting the first 3, and then they just have to wait 1 week,
just 1 week,
and then 4, 5, 6.
So
I'm gonna be really interested to see people's reaction after the show is done. Because I think people will be paying attention after the show is done.
Yeah, I think so.
I think that I mentioned this during the reaction. Maybe, and I don't want to give the marketing team benefit of the doubt here, but maybe they're waiting for that to draw crowds to the show.
And then they're going to put out some more. Well, I hope
maybe,
so, man.
Maybe.
I hope so.
Yeah, we'll see.
I don't know. Maybe we'll see. It's going to be interesting to watch, being how we're in a special
I want to
position.
interview someone in marketing to understand like what was the strategy
By the way,
here?
have you guys heard about that book? There's a book apparently that somebody wrote about the inner workings of Marvel. I heard Rob on Comics Explained. he's talking about some of the stuff that you would love to read this book.
I know.
Talking about the
Isn't
inner
it-
machinations of Marvel.
Isn't it about like the formation of Marvel Studios basically?
No, it's about like the drama
Yeah.
after like Quantum Mania and like all this stuff, and how announcements were made and people weren't happy, and they made Kevin Feige announce Fantastic Four even though there was no plan. Like all kinds of stuff, dude. I'll find you the name of the book.
I think
some
I
books.
think
and
I
then
might
we're
know what
gonna
it
have
is.
to have a whole episode about
We
it.
should.
Because
I
this
know.
shit is
Listen,
crazy.
I think I might know what it is, but I also feel like because there was another book that came out a couple years ago that tracked the rise and fall of the biggest studio in Hollywood history, whatever, the MCU, whatever. And I'm sure that there's like legit stuff in there, like, and I'm sure it's well researched, and I'm sure that it is all, you know, legit basically. But I'm also like, yeah, but this is written by people that are not in there.
I think
and
this was
they're-
written
and-
by somebody who was in there.
Well, then they might get sued. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like the people that work in those studios will sign NDAs about this specific stuff. Now, if it's one thing, because, you know, we've been in LA for over 10 years. It's another thing if you're like at a party and someone's like, oh, so-and-so, they work at Marvel Studios. And then you go chat them up and they're like, let me tell you some shit. And it's like, don't tell anybody, friend DA. We're like, I got it. That's another
happens a
thing.
lot.
It does. And if you get like confidential sources and it's like reporting and journalism, that's fine. But you still have to take it as like, is this legit or is this like,
I'll find you the book.
do you know what I mean?
You figure it out.
That's it.
And if it's juicy, we'll talk about it.
I know. But I mean,
I'm going to buy you that book.
we'll talk about it too, but it's also like, I would love for an opportunity to basically talk to Kevin Feige. Like, I don't know what I'm saying. To basically be like, dude, is this real? Did this
How
happen?
many times do you say that to yourself a day?
All the time. I mean, producer Alex gets it, but it's just like, man, it feels like it's an account of people at a creative movie studio trying their best and being hindered by whatever forces, political forces, economic forces, you know, other people in the studio,
Creative
their
forces.
bosses, creative forces. And that's frustrating. And I think there's also a part of me that's like, I don't want to know that shit because it's like, it's not like, I don't want to know how the pie is made. I don't know how the pizza's made, but it's like, is that the metaphor? That's probably not the metaphor. What is it?
We'll take it.
How the sausage is made.
Sausage is made.
That's right.
But it's also
There you
like,
go.
it's like when Mark Hamill talked about Last Jedi and he was like in an interview being like, I disagreed with Rian Johnson when I read the script. I disagreed with this direction of Luke Skywalker. I was about to say Luke Cage, but this direction of Luke Cage. I disagreed. But then in follow-up interviews,
Taking it all out of context.
he goes, I shouldn't have said that stuff because that's part of the process in the beginning. And ultimately what matters is what's up on the screen. That's it.
I'm going to find the book.
Go for it, man. I think I might know which one it is, but you know what I'm saying? It's like, ultimately,
Yeah.
it's like, it doesn't matter good or bad, how
Right.
good someone's intentions were, how well thought out Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania was, and how perfect that script was. If the movie that was released is received the way it is by audiences, and I like that movie, then that's what it is. You can't be like, hey, look at how shitty things were behind the scenes, or look at
Yeah.
how good things were behind the scenes.
Well, and it's especially hard
Doesn't
nowadays
matter.
because everything is scrutinized. Every
Yes.
detail of every movie
Yes.
is scrutinized to
Yes.
death.
Yeah.
Which, like, I'm sure that still existed in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000s.
Yeah.
But we didn't have the internet where every single voice could be heard,
Yeah.
like, so publicly.
Yeah.
You would talk about it amongst your friends, but it would usually never leave your friend group. Now it leaves every group imaginable and goes into the ether of the world. And then people just triple, double, quadruple down on that stuff.
Yeah.
And you're like,
Yeah.
okay, I'm tired already.
What's the name of the book, Augustine?
I'm finding
You
it. I'm
found
finding it. I'm
Oh,
finding
okay.
it.
It's like the whole thing about Superman, the TV spot about him flying and how everybody would just like endlessly
it's-
critique and nitpick that shot. And I'm like, guys,
It's funny.
let it go.
Because we're about to endlessly nitpick and critique James Gunn's interviews right now. We're about to go into it. We're about to do it.
Right?
Well, Augustine, while you find the book,
Yeah.
let's talk about that. I think that is
Yeah.
actually a good
Okay.
segue into like what's been going on with the press for Superman, which I will say, as an outsider, has been, in my mind, really great. There's been a lot of reveals, but not everything.
Yeah.
Even
Which I
now, with
appreciate.
some of the info that we know, it's like there's even characters in this movie that have not been revealed yet, which is kind of nuts. It's kind of crazy. Like, there were no surprise character reveals in Thunderbolts. We knew everybody in Thunderbolts.
Yeah,
We knew
exactly.
everybody in Captain America, Brave New World. At this point, I think we know everybody in Fantastic Four.
I think so.
They're going out of the way to be
mostly,
like,
yeah.
Dr. Doom's not in it. And we're like, okay, he probably is not because they're, anyway, how do you feel, Adam, about James Gunn doing the kind of recent interviews he's doing? It feels like it's almost like as soon as the picture was locked, he was like, okay, now I can do some appearances and do some interviews. Because he was busy.
He's juggling a lot. I mean, because he's doing Superman, he's doing Peacemaker at the same time.
Yep.
And those projects are basically coming out back to back. So I think he was talking about at one point that like they're sound mixing basically at the same time, color timing at the same time.
Yeah.
He's also having kind of a hand in Lanterns, but also not because he trusts that team. And then he's like writing, it's just like endless. But I mean, I think the thing that I am not enjoying as much is I feel like every outlet who's asking questions is asking the same questions. And I think to me that gets a little repetitive and boring because I've heard James Gunn answer the same question 5 ways.
Yes.
Which is fine because that's what he is supposed to do.
Right.
That's his job, is to answer them in a way that like doesn't reveal anything, maintains as much of the surprise of not just this movie, but also Supergirl and all the other projects. So I think that's been a little bit of my frustration is I read some stuff and I'm like, oh, this is a good interview. And then I'll go to another outlet. I'm like, this is the same question answered differently. So I think that's the only thing that I have not enjoyed, but that's not really a James Gunn thing. That's more of the way the questions are being asked.
You're putting it on our peers and other people, interviewers who are.
No offense. I'm critiquing you a little bit. Like don't ask the same question about the same project. What's the status with Batman?
Yeah. Right.
Something else to ask.
Yeah.
That's why James Gunn was like, get off Matt Reeves' nuts.
Yeah,
like, he literally
leave
said
him
that.
alone. Jesus Christ.
Because it's frustrating. And it's also like, I love the answer to the question because people keep asking him, James, you said you couldn't do Superman until you found your in. What was your in? And he keeps saying, once I got my dog.
Yeah. Right.
And it's a great story, but I have heard it like 2 or 3 times now where it's like, once I got my dog and he was tearing up the house, I was like, what if this dog had superpowers? There you go. That's the movie I want to write. That's the one. There it is.
Yeah.
Which is really great. But yes, now I want somebody to follow up more with that. I want somebody to go like, what's the status on the Crypto shorts? Will we see Crypto and Supergirl? Will we, just keep it going. Was there something that had to be your in for this upcoming Batman? The Brave and the Bold. What was your in? Is it that he's
why a father-son story?
Right. Like, let's go. So basically, James, come on to the show.
We got you covered, baby.
We can even do a little, if you're too busy, after the movie comes out, after Superman comes out, just come on and we can do kind of like a postmortem and we can talk about the movie and do full spoilers.
You got a pre-mortem?
I think that would actually be better because we could talk spoilers. We could talk spoilers and we could talk about the future. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But anyways,
let's get into some of the stuff, guys, because we have some info here.
Oh, wait. Before we go, the book is called The Reign of... Is that the one you're talking about?
Oh, yeah.
The Reign of Marvel Studios by Joanna Robinson, Dave Gonzalez, and Gavin Edwards.
I've heard it's great, but I'm still hesitant to read it for all the reasons I said. And I'm like, sorry, y'all, they don't work there. I'm like, they're listening to people and they're putting it together.
I think you should read it.
Should we start a book club and read it?
Yeah. Dude, bring back the book club and the Discord.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
I need my comic book studio to be perfect.
Maybe. We'll see about that. That might be fun is to kind of do like a chapter by chapter.
Yeah.
Because again, the interesting thing about that is, again, I don't want to diminish those like journalists' work. I'm sure they're doing legit research. I'm sure they're talking to people who work there. But I think I remember when that book came out, they were also describing, they're like, we pulled articles and interviews and stuff going back to before Marvel Studios started and to kind of chart out a timeline of how these productions were happening. So they're also just going back into the archives. They're pulling stuff about little questions being asked. I'm sure the drama of Edgar Wright not doing Ant-Man, a lot of that was talked about 10 years ago. There's a lot of interviews where Edgar Wright talks about it, Peyton Reed talks about it, Kevin Feige talks about it. So like if they're plugging that stuff in, if they're doing it just to be salacious B. Crumb,
but there's only one way to find out, Hector. You gotta read
that's
the book.
one thing. But we also have a perspective of, we were at a post-production house that had some Marvel movies. And as we were working on it at the post-production level, our bosses and our peers and stuff were like, man, this Captain America, the first Avenger movie looks like ass, right? Everyone was like, I don't know if this is going to work, dude.
Yeah.
And then what happened? Lo and behold, it kind of came through in the 11th hour. And it was a pretty solid movie.
Yeah.
And that happened like a couple times, you know? And so...
Happened with Avengers,
So I tend to read that stuff about like all the juicy stuff. Again, and maybe it's me giving Marvel Studios too much of the benefit of the doubt. But every time people are shocked at how they make movies, I go, but that is how they made the first Iron Man.
That's still how they make movies to this day. It's still a lot of 11th hour stuff.
Exactly. And I'm saying it's like how can you blame them for going into stuff with that kind of prep and that kind of attitude? Specifically meaning like their scripts might not be done. The scripts aren't finished. James Gunn has talked about that he doesn't want to do that with DC, that their scripts will be finished. They will cancel movies. There was a movie about to go into production, which I think was Sergeant Rock. And then he goes, script wasn't where it needed to be, canceled, movie canceled. People were ready to start working, movie canceled. And yet I think back to like the first Iron Man, and I'm like, that's how Robert Downey Jr. and Jon Favreau and Jeff Bridges and Gwyneth Paltrow made that movie, dude. They were flying by the seat of their ass.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, and you go, well, not every movie should be made. I go, yeah, you're right. You're not wrong.
You're just giving me reasons why I think you should read the book.
All right. Fair enough.
And it is also very much the opposite of what I think James Gunn has talked about multiple times of how they're trying to make movies.
Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, let's get into it. Let's talk about this. James Gunn, we got a little bit of time. James Gunn has done a bunch of interviews. This is being pulled from some Entertainment Weekly stuff, a little bit of Rolling Stones, a little bit of DC Showcase, but he's basically like, being asked, how much of this stuff are you working on? And he goes, look, when I got writers coming in on Lanterns, they're doing their own thing. I'm not really on set. They're going. Yeah. Whereas he has the job of the creative at the micro level and the macro level. His job is like, I think I want to adapt the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow comic book. Let me meet with some writers. Let me and then he's kind of overseeing that. And he was maybe more involved at the writing level, but for other stuff like Clayface, it's Mike Flanagan coming in or texting him or sending him a pitch. And they're like, this is actually great. They did not plan to do Clayface this early. But now Flanagan coming in with a script that's going to be awesome. Like that set them, we're going to greenlight this
They've
sooner.
already cast their lead. They're going to start filming soon. It comes out next year.
Dude. So,
and it's R-rated body horror, which I'm like, yes.
And the thing about Superman, he was also asked, like, why is Superman kind of the big first movie? And he goes, well, it was already a part of my job before he got the job of co-running DC and running DC creatively. He goes, I was already hired to write Superman. I was already doing Creature Commandos. I was already doing Peacemaker. And when those projects are juggling, it's like, oh, actually Superman is kind of the most, like it is the most important. It's the pillar. Yeah. So that's how it ended up kind of coming out first. Yeah. So this I thought was interesting is that Superman and Peacemaker, not so much Creature Commandos, but Superman and Peacemaker are very important to this phase. This DCU phase 1, which is called Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, and that it's going to feed into the larger story. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think the larger story is going to be? Is it going to culminate in a Justice League movie? Is it going to culminate in a Swamp Thing joins the DC Universe movie? Is it going to, like, what is Gods and Monsters? What do you think that mini endgame is going to be?
Whew, that's a good question. I mean, Gods and Monsters to me, very more so than before, really feels like it's about introducing characters from such a wide spectrum of universes. And when I say universe, I mean like the one DC universe, but like horror and sci-fi, action, fantasy, so it is about introducing Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, but also characters like Swamp Thing, Blue Beetle and Booster Gold, all that kind of stuff. So I don't know, like where do I think the end game will go? Yeah. Based on what little we know about Superman, and it seems like Lex Luthor has such a hand in trying to create other characters that are like Superman in the sense of like these superpowered beings, whether they're human-like or monsters, like he fights a kaiju. I'm sure Lex Luthor has a hand in that.
Metamorpho,
Ultraman, all, So I feel like at some point we're going to start to maybe see that it's about the assembly of these very terrible characters who are maybe birthed out of what Luthor thinks is a necessity to try to defeat them, to kind of be like, the ultimate number one villain. So maybe that will culminate in having to form the Justice League in order to take down all of these gods and monsters, basically. So maybe that could be part of it.
I think so. I think we talk about Superman as like the most important, pillar of the DC, pantheon of characters. And yes, you're right. But also, I think what's most important is setting a good tone and a unique tone and saying something with your movies. Like, clearly, we've seen comic book movies for the past, however, I don't even know how long, since I was a baby. I don't know. But right now, it feels like it's important to set more of a tone rather than just the spectacle of being a superhero movie and translating everything from a comic book into the movies. Correct. We've seen it. Correct. It's been done successfully. I think James Gunn... Yes, Superman is very important. It is the first pillar. I think every other character has that same kind of responsibility and that kind of motive to be important in the scheme of the larger universe. I think it's called Gods and Monsters because you're setting the tone of like, these are our gods, These are our monsters, and this is the world we're gonna play in. Not just the world, the cosmic, the universe, like everything.
Right.
All of these characters are going to be setting a tone for the larger universe at play.
Yeah.
So we're going to get cosmic stuff. We're going to get Earth stuff. We're going to get small stories. We're going to get big stories.
Magic stuff.
And they all have to deal with these gods and these monsters. And what are we going to say and how are we going to be different aside from, you know, previously in the past we're just like, we're just not Marvel. That's how we're different. No, dude, say something with your movies.
Yep.
And every single entry at this point is important because it has to say something.
Yep.
It has to add to having the audience care about continuing to watch these movies that we have been watching for so long already. And I think that's really kind of the most important thing. Like Superman's important, but so is Wonder Woman. So is Batman. So are the Lanterns. So is Plastic Man. Like all of these other characters, Martian Manhunter, like all of these characters are important. And which is why I would always say that before Endgame came out, the greatest superhero franchise for me was the animated DC universe.
Correct.
The Justice League Unlimited, that collection of stories and those arcs that those characters go through, unbeatable up to that point.
Correct.
Absolutely unbeatable.
Correct take.
So if that is, I think that's really kind of the tone they have to set with everybody. Like every one of these characters is important in their own way, and they need to be represented correctly.
James has talked about that, where he's like, we don't just want to do our Batman just because it's like we have to put a Batman movie into production.
Nah, dude.
They were like, what is exactly what you're saying? What tone is this? What does this add to the larger story? What is the narrative need for a Batman, Brave and the Bold? You know, his son is Damian Wayne. What's the point of this movie coming out now when it's coming out? And they're looking at the same stuff with Wonder Woman. They're looking at like everything, like exactly like you said. And as you guys were talking just now, I was thinking, I wonder if they're going to do like a reverse phase one of Marvel, where instead of it culminating in a good guy team up, what if they do the Legion of Doom?
That'd be great.
What if they honestly have Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, and it's like Gods and Monsters, look at everything he's assembled to try to fight off what he thinks is the biggest threat to mankind, which is Superman and these hero characters. And it's like he gets a Joker, he gets a Solomon Grundy, he gets a Captain Cold, he gets a Toyman, he gets a Sinestro. And all of a sudden, it's like
that's why they have to form the Justice League.
That's why they have to form
these big hitters.
And it's got to be a different Justice League than whatever already exists in the world, right? Right now, Luthor has his own little Justice League with Green Lantern, Guy Gardner, Hawk Girl, Metamorpho, Mr. Terrific. Maybe they work for him, maybe not. But like,
Maxwell Lord.
Is Maxwell Lord's great? Yeah. So I think that James, because he also grew up in an era of comics where I was always trying to pinpoint, like, where is he pulling the most from?
Right, yeah, me too.
Because we all have our era. You mentioned my era, our era, the DC animated universe, the best.
But then we also have, like, Challenge of the Super Friends was a thing that I loved as a kid too. Totally. And that's like 20 years before I was born.
That Silver Age iconography, though, where it's like the Super Friends versus the Legion of Doom.
Yeah.
Incredible.
The Legion of Doom, even though it's basically from the Super Friends TV show, is the best, like, villain team lineup in DC still to this day. There's no other team that's like a better Injustice League, dumb name. It should be called the Legion of Doom.
It has the best name.
It has the best name. The best fortress. You know they're going to do a version of
Comes
that.
out of the swamp or whatever.
In the Harley Quinn animated show, that's the version they did where like that's where like the bad guys meet and Lex Luthor shows up, voiced by Giancarlo Esposito, and their headquarters looks like that. You know, if you have a Hall of Justice, you have to have that swamp Legion of Doom headquarters. But like, what if it does end with that, where if Maxwell Lord has his characters, I think that's because James Gunn grew up with the Justice League International comics of the 80s that had Booster Gold, Blue Beetle. It had, it had Guy Gardner getting punched in the face by Batman. It had weird shit like the Green Lantern Gnort, who was like that Chewbacca looking guy. All of that stuff, like Fire and Ice, all of that, those characters come from that era. And they were such like a kind of a corporate, because they were funded by Maxwell Lord. Right. And I think it'd be a great way to set that up as the norm and go, yeah, superheroes have been around such a long time that this is what the Justice League is. But with Superman, with a seasoned Batman, with a new Wonder Woman, and then they get the Flash and a Green Lantern, maybe John Stewart, and a Hawk Girl, all of a sudden you have the animated lineup and they go, no, this is the true Justice League because these people are good. And then it even converts like Mr. Terrific's like, yeah, I don't want to work for Maxwell Lord anymore. Hawk Girl's like, yeah, I don't want to work for Maxwell Lord. Metamorpho, all that stuff. So like that could be the end of Gods and Monsters Chapter 1
That would be so cool.
is James going, this is what it was. Now here's the reason for like the new Justice League, you know, that is maybe closer to the animated series lineup or with Martian Manhunter.
I don't
all
even
that
think
stuff.
it needs to be close to it. I think it just needs to have that
Tonally.
spirit, that energy of
Totally.
everybody, every contributing member to the team has something important and why you care about why they're on that team.
Here's another thing I think is fascinating. James Gunn said that a very, very, very famous movie actor, that many varies, pitched an Elseworlds DC movie to him. And James was like, look, most of the stuff we're doing is going to be within the DCU, but we'll still do some Elseworld shit if it's good. And James was like, it could be worth it, even if it confuses the audience a little bit, if it's really effing good. And then he said that this actor was like, oh, geez, well, I don't know if it's that good. And James was like, go do the script. Either you write it or somebody else writes it. But like, if this is a masterpiece, I'll make it. And the actor was like, he got all funny, like, I don't know if it's a masterpiece. But James Gunn heard this pitch. Who do you think that actor is? What do you think this Elseworlds pitch is?
I think it could be the Michael B. Jordan Superman movie that he's been wanting to make.
Interesting.
Damn, that's a good one, dude. I was gonna say Leonardo DiCaprio came in because he's also like a secret nerd. And I was like, somebody like when he said very, very, very famous movie actor, that's Michael B. Jordan for sure. But I was like, what if it is one of these guys that's just like, they've never done one of these movies, but they are nerds about shit. And I know DiCaprio is. And then they come in and they're like, well, what if I did, with his little like Inception meme face, what if I did this? What if this is the movie? And you can't say no to a status like that, but you can say like, hey, if this is great, we'll make it. And I feel like it might be an actor like that comes in and goes, and I was trying to read what James Gunn said, and I think he was using he pronouns. I'm like, I think this is a man actor coming in with some pitch about something. And I was like, but now you got me with that. I think it might be.
I feel like Michael B. Jordan's been trying to make that movie for years now.
Yes. And there's never been, now it's almost easier.
Right.
Because in the past, everything was so muddled, but now it's like there's a clear delineation between this is in continuity and this is Elseworlds.
Right.
And Michael B. Jordan's probably just like, just let me do my alternate universe.
Yeah. I mean,
Black Superman
James
movie.
Gunn's
Just
even
do it.
talked about how like the moment that job was announced, he got text messages from certain people.
Yeah.
So you know that people who've been like chomping at the bit to do something at DC and not having any leadership to kind of turn to pitch the project correctly.
Yeah.
Now you have James Gunn at the helm, who is a comic book guy, who loves comics, who understands like, this would be an Elseworld story. And James Gunn goes, okay.
Yep.
You know, other than a Warner Brothers, who's going to go, an executive Warner Brothers will go, what? What does that mean?
I'm hoping it was Tom Cruise wanting to break into the comic book industry, dude. I'm really hoping it is, because that dude, imagine that dude in a comic book movie. It's gonna be the most.
He's
badass.
like, James, I'll play Dead Man, but I'll really die. And James Gunn's like, okay.
I'll play Mr. Freeze. I will freeze my stuff.
Dr. Fate, I will learn magic. I already started it in what's the last one when he was doing the hand magic?
Mission Impossible?
And he was doing it in Mission Impossible already.
Yeah.
I've talked to my stunt team.
Dr. Fate can happen in real life.
I have as much Thetans as you need. I can do this.
I have all the Thetans. Please
do it. Tell me something. Tell me to my face. I've already
written the script.
Tell me to my face I can't do something, and I'll do it. And I'll do it.
I'll learn to fly.
Yeah.
On my own. No cables. No stunt team.
No parachute.
No VFX.
Oh my
it's
God.
gonna happen.
See you at the movies.
I think Tom Cruise just died.
He jumped out of my office building. Oh no. So that's how he leaves every conversation. See you at the movies. And he just runs away. James, I will tap into the Speed Force. I will become the Flash.
I will become the Flash. I will be faster than the Flash. And I'll slow down just for the shots.
Yeah. All right. So, other stuff that James Gunn is working on that I want to talk about. He's been hinting at a lot of this stuff, and he was like savvy enough to kind of go, maybe people kind of know what some of this stuff is, but he wasn't outright saying what a bunch of this stuff was. He was asked about what he's working on. Another TV show that's his favorite thing in all of this, and it's hopefully getting made soon.
I think it's Booster Gold.
You think that's what it is? It could be.
It just seems like such a James Gunn tone.
Because I'm like, is the TV show the Wonder Woman Paradise Lost, Themyscira? I'm like, no, I don't think so. Because he wasn't talking about that the same way he just said it's his favorite thing in all of this. And Booster Gold feels like it would be right up his alley.
Yeah.
The rumor is it's Kumail Nanjiani. Like,
that would be crazy.
That's the rumor.
That would be crazy.
It should be Alex Puccinelli.
It should be Alex Puccinelli. We will die on that hill. Should be Alex Puccinelli.
Should be our homie. But yeah, then he said he's also got a movie. And then he kind of stopped himself. He goes, "Oh shit, I don't know if I can say."
I don't know. PSAS approved this.
And it sounded like the movie he just mentioned was maybe a spinoff of that first TV show. So maybe he's doing a TV show, Booster Gold, and then the movie is like Blue and Gold, which is Blue Beetle Booster Gold. I don't know. I'm just, assuming, and I'm throwing out some assumptions here because of the way he was kind of going through this conversation. Then he said there's a couple of other movies being written. One of those movies is in pretty good shape. Another is kind of closer to the start of the process, but they feel very positive about that. Like everything's feeling good. James Gunn's favorite thing has not been announced at all. So Booster Gold was announced, wasn't it? In that 2023 January, like Chapter 1, Gods and Monsters, Booster Gold. He said his favorite thing has not been announced at all. One of those scripts that he just mentioned, people kind of know about. It might be Booster Gold. Then he said that Gunn's script that he's working on, people don't know about. And it was a thing that he never announced because he felt it would be too easy to rip off by another studio. He didn't say by Marvel specifically, but I'm sure he's meaning Marvel.
Sure, right.
But if he's like, if another, like what other studios are in the position that he's in, not too many, what is like the Transformers, G.I. Joe, Paramount people going to rip something off? Like my question to you guys is, what do you think this idea could be? Let's put his shit on blast right now.
That's a good question because you think about like how many comic book writers have jumped between Marvel and DC, and you immediately I start to think of like, okay, well then what are stories in both universes that are similar-ish?
I mean, a lot of them are.
Like and what characters and all that kind of stuff.
Well, it's also the thing of like you could take a concept in one and you could map it to adapt it for the other. So like in my opinion, his Guardians of the Galaxy was conceptually ripped off to do Suicide Squad at Warner Brothers. Whereas, like, yes, Suicide Squad is a comic book at DC. Don't get me wrong. Like, and it has a long history. But like, that movie came out. What the tone of it was, what the energy was, I felt like helped Warner Brothers greenlight that pretty soon after Man of Steel. So yeah, maybe he's got an idea that's not a. It's maybe it's a novel enough idea that it's like. It's not this and this, it's this and this, that Marvel could go, oh, we could do that with these characters we have.
Yeah.
Right? So that's why he's playing it close to the chest. I don't know, dude. Well, like, could it be a villain team up movie? Could it be a time travel thing? Could it be like, I'm trying to think about DC specific stuff, but I don't know.
Stuff has happened. What I'm thinking, this is just me, is some crazy Spider-Verse style animated hybrid live action dimension hopping kind of thing, because that could be copied. It has been done well at Sony. I'm hoping James Gunn looked at both of those Spider-Man projects and was like, these are incredible.
I need to do something maybe like a year or two ago. He did a video for I forget what outlet where he named the 5 greatest or his favorite superhero movies.
Spider-Verse was like,
it was, I think Superman the movie was in there, Deadpool was in there, and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which he said is the greatest comic book film ever made.
Listen.
That's my dude.
Did I just crack it?
That's my dude. Crack it open? Like
hot scoop.
Crazy. So maybe, honestly, maybe it is. If it's not a hybrid thing, maybe it is such an animated concept that he's afraid that like Sony could steal the idea,
right? Exactly.
Or Disney, Pixar, or DreamWorks, or like that's interesting.
I'm still waiting for the full repercussions of those movies to hit directors and stuff because I think especially Into the Spider-Verse did such a huge service to comic books in general and movies in general. They broke ground, and I feel like people are still processing about their ideas on how they could take something like this. We've seen Arcane, which is great. They did a little bit of that style. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish also kind of mixed that style a little bit. Like not even Disney's taking advantage of all the ground that was broken with Sony, dude.
Did you hear about the announcements coming out of Pixar? For the film festival, they're doing from the director of Luca, another film set in Italy about a cat, and it's supposed to have a full-on new style, painterly style. And they said Spider-Verse and Arcane.
I'm telling you, those shows are having huge repercussions, at least in people's heads right now. Where they're like, what can we do with all of this cool new stuff? I'm hoping James Gunn is on board with that kind of style. Maybe like a live action that has that kind of a vibe to it. I would love more animated projects that are like What If. Like my biggest gripe with What If is the stiff animation and not so great character designs. I really wish that would have been better. Other than that, I think the show is great.
And it is because they are basically being like, we're drawing inspiration from the live action world. in a way, is that holding them back? Did what if not 100%. Go full blown? Like, let's get kooky with it.
Right.
Like, our favorite episodes are the ones that get weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
Exactly.
the all original stuff like Kahori. Like that character is great and it has nothing to do with it. That would be really interesting, dude.
That is interesting, though. I didn't think about it not necessarily being like a story thing that maybe is similar to a Marvel.
But it's a format thing.
It's a format
stylistic thing. Hey, that's what I'm here for, guys. I'm here to mix it up.
It could be. I mean, I feel like Marvel Studios for the past couple of years has been. Thank you for that. Thank you for your presence. Your presence is a present. But like, Marvel has been trying to interweave TV and movies. I know James Gunn has been doing that. That's what he's been saying. He's been trying to do. There's a bunch of. I kept trying to think about what else could be done that's innovative in a superhero context that hasn't been done yet, that could be ripped off by others, and I honestly cannot. The best I could come up with is like he's doing a movie centered around one or more villains. That's not, but it's like we've kind of seen that shit too. I don't know.
I don't think the reason I came to this conclusion is I don't think it's like a genre bender or anything like that, because we've seen it. Like it's comic books, all those things we've seen in one form or another. I think it's more of a stylistic, just like I said, just kind of taking a different medium of filmmaking and bringing it into something that's not traditionally thought of as a superhero concept. I think that's really where superhero movies can still have a lot of leg room, still have a lot of runway to go in that direction.
I think you're right.
Yeah,
I think you're right. Okay, well, let's talk about the next thing because I am bringing us there. All right. Sorry, I was like, let me go. My phone's dying. Let me go into my settings. Okay. The other thing he's working on is a Superman sequel that's not quite a Superman sequel. Is This World's Finest? Adam, don't look at me like that, baby. Come on.
I mean, he was asked at one point, and he on Threads, if you were to do a team up movie between Batman and Superman, what would you call it? Would you call it a versus movie? Or maybe they didn't even ask that specifically. But he was like, I would just call it World's Finest because
that's what it is.
Hello. That's what it's
There.
been. That's what it's going to be. That's what it is.
There.
So I would not be surprised, especially when he says that it's sequel-ish.
Yeah.
The only other thing that I could think of is that it's a team up movie with Superman and Supergirl. Depending on what happens in Supergirl.
Yeah. That'd be adorable.
That's the only other thing that I could think of, which I would be also fine with.
Yeah.
But if you're going to introduce Batman into the universe before Brave and the Bold, doing a team up movie with Superman makes total sense.
Or this could be something that's post Brave and the Bold.
Sure.
We don't know, but
that's true. That's true.
Is this too similar to Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice?
No.
Okay.
I think on paper, conceptually, you read, it's a Batman Superman team up movie. Sure. They're going to be so different.
Okay.
Oh my God.
I think if you're smart, you stay as far away from anything like that as possible.
Yeah. Well, and also that movie was marketed as a versus film.
Yeah.
This will be marketed as a team up movie.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be the huge difference between the two.
James also said he's probably going to direct the thing that he's writing right now, which I think might be that. I think, I'm not sure. Sergeant Rock, like we said, is still moving forward, but they're like creatively tweaking it a little bit. Paradise Lost TV show is still moving forward. It's moving slowly, but he says that he really loves it a lot, and it's different from Wonder Woman, which I think is also being its own movie developed.
Yes.
But they're connected, but it's separate. And then he said, get off Matt Reeves' nuts. They said there's characters in Superman who haven't even been announced yet, which is wild. And I don't know if we have any last minute predictions for that. But
no,
it could be anything I just said. I don't think it's a Batman or a Wonder Woman. I don't think it's a big name character like that. I think it might be a Scooby-Doo. That would be
incredible.
Awesome. I'm not kidding.
So loving
if he brought in, oh my God, shut up. If he brought in because you know how like Scooby-Doo was CG in the James Gunn movies that he wrote.
Yeah.
And now you watch it, you're like, this looks really bad. It doesn't hold up. Sure. But Crypto's CG.
Yeah.
And looks amazing. If he brought in just like a realistic Great Dane at the end of the movie that was like, real, I'd be like, James, do I have a pitch for you? Let me do your Scooby-Doo reboot. Let me write it. I know exactly what to do. This is amazing. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
If he could redo that.
That's going to be James Gunn's Howard the Duck, Scooby-Doo.
Could be. Speaking of, what if like Batmite is in this movie? What if like Mr. McZipsel-Spitalik is in this movie? He could get funky with it.
Well, that's the thing that I think of. I don't think of necessarily, like, to me, the first thing that does not come to my head is Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Flash.
Correct.
I think of like what's so obscure and weird that is so on brand with James Gunn to bring in. And everything you just listed, I'm like, yep, that could totally
The Doom
be it.
Patrol could be in it.
I want to see
Like,
Bawana Beast.
Bawana Beast shows up and we'll freak out, and everyone else will be like, what the fuck? Who's this fucking guy?
Yeah.
Who's this like white guy in this like jungle like loincloth? And we're like, oh shit, it's Bawana Beast. Bawana Beast. That's so funny.
That's what I expect from James Gunn. So when he announces all the big show, I'm like, cool. Excited about Wonder Woman, excited about Green Lantern, cool.
Give me that Plastic Man.
Yeah, that's what I want to see. And that's
too.
the thing that you said that has always stuck with me after all these years is like, you need to find a guy who gives a shit about Plastic Man.
Thank you, dude.
Not the CEO of Nature Valley granola bars.
Yeah, dude. Not the guy who made Honey Boo Boo famous.
Yeah, exactly. Wait.
That's
now you're going to
David
start
Zaslav.
talking shit about 90 Day.
Let's go.
No, I will not take any 90 Day slander. I will not take 90 Day slander.
Somewhere David Zaslav is like, yes, good. I got you.
Someone
I
my
got one of
legacy will
them.
be Superman and Honey Boo Boo.
I was watching.
I was on HBO Max and Prey. No. Something had just come out that was huge.
Yeah.
And 90 Day was still beating it on the ranking.
It's like Sinners, number 2. Number 1, 90 Day Fiancé.
90 Day Fiancé.
Damn, dude, we're cooked. We are cooked.
So
We're cooked as a species.
Talking about people who haven't been announced that are in this project.
Characters.
Really, what I want to see in this is Blue Beetle be in this movie. If we're bringing
Xolo
in
Maridueña?
he said
I
we're
would
not
cry.
done. He said we're not done with that character.
He is doing an animated series.
Augustine, I would cry.
But
Right, exactly.
If he shows up in Superman,
And
That's what I'm
shit.
telling you, dude. You haven't even
shit.
thought about that yet.
Oh my
Guys,
God.
I'm full of ideas today.
And if Superman speaks Spanish to him,
Oh my god.
like
And
in the
they
comics,
both speak in Spanish?
I will fucking shit my pants. I will cry
Forget
and
about
shit
it.
I will be a blubbering mess in a theater. I will cry harder than when I watched Coco for the first time. Like it'll be Coco times 10, dude. It'll be Coco
that
to
be
the power
crazy,
of Coco.
though, if
Superman's like, Jaime, hola, ¿cómo estás, mi amigo? I'd be like, ¿Cómo está tu mamá? Bien?
Abuelita, how's she doing?
Yeah.
Can I come over for dinner tonight?
Oh my god, that's the greatest movie. I'm gonna throw up. I'm gonna throw up. My girlfriend's like, stop it, you're embarrassing yourself. I'm gonna throw up.
My 3D glasses are all moist.
You don't know what this means to me.
My lenses are melting.
It's not gonna happen, but it should happen. Guys, just to wrap out, I'm feeling so excited about this movie.
Yeah.
I'm feeling so good about it. Couple things I want to pull up real quick,
Wait,
and then
the
we're out of here.
one most
Go.
important thing that I will tell you on Wednesday when you get out of that movie, don't you fucking dare spoil anything.
Don't
Of course
say
not.
anything.
Of course not.
I mean,
murder
he's been
you.
good though because he's seen a lot of movies that we.
And I will
haven't
tell
seen.
you, if you want like if you want like a 5-star letterbox score, I'll give it to you.
The one all I ask for is
Okay.
a thumbs up or a thumbs down.
Okay, I'll give it to you.
That's it.
But only you. But
Only
I'm not
me.
going to give you anything until we.
You just saying
we
that
all
made
see
me
it.
want to throw up.
Really?
Don't worry about it.
I don't want to
worry
know
about it.
anything.
Don't worry
Okay,
about it.
okay.
So a couple things is that
What if he hits me with one of these thumbs sideways? Oh,
That's right. Like right at the end of Fanboys, guys. What if it sucks? Yeah, like cut to black. Like that's crazy. Dude.
Yeah.
That's crazy. All right, well, egg on our face. Watch, this movie sucks ass, and we're like using clips of us like this is gonna be so great, and then a week later we're like, no,
we're like, you know what, James? Don't come on the show.
It's gonna be great. It's gonna be great. So in a Rolling Stone interview from like a week or two ago, James Gunn said a couple things. He said that being fired by Marvel and then having all these people reach out to him really made him feel loved and made him, I mean, his whole career has been like, he's been an edgelord and he's worked with people, actors that he said like Chris Pratt and John Cena that are such personas and they're such funny guys and such characters. And he's worked with them and be like, actually, but just be sincere in this. Like people love you, John Cena. People love you, Chris Pratt. And it got through to them as actors. And he said that giving that note got through to him. That he was all of a sudden just like, dude, he cares about humanity. He cares about, equal rights. He cares about stuff that he says now put him in a state of mind. He goes, I couldn't have written this movie 5 years ago. 2020, James Gunn could not have done Superman. But all the things that happened to him needed to happen to him so he can be in like the right headspace to write this movie and be so sincere about it. I was like, that makes me feel great.
I also really wish that all these
happy
outlets
for
that are
him.
interviewing him would kind of like dive into that a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because to me, it is so fascinating because I remember going to Comic-Con and seeing James Gunn for the first time, not knowing anything about him, not knowing who he was. At that point, I hadn't even put together that he wrote the Scooby-Doo movies.
Yep.
And to see kind of like how he was, because he even talked about in the DC Showcase interview how he was always like very loud and argumentative, and he would always have to, and that's how the industry has always been. It's always been about like, well, you want something, you got to fight for it. And it's not like you have to have a normally toned conversation. It's like you are at each other's throats creatively to justify why you want to make a choice in something. And I think it was really refreshing to hear him say, like, at a certain point, I think it was David Yarovetsky who directed Brightburn, came up to him and said, like, you can just ask normally. You are already loud enough.
And people might be more receptive
people
to
be
that.
more receptive if you just ask them normally about something. And he said that, like, especially in the last few years, but ever since he started making Guardians, like his personality and his the way that he communicates with people has shifted so much in 10 years that
Look at how Star-Lord is in those movies.
Yeah.
How he starts
And where he ends up.
and where he ends up.
Yeah.
Just as a personality. Just
James
as a
Gunn,
man.
whether he knew it or not, was subconsciously kind of like self-reflecting in those movies.
And Rocket Raccoon too. It's
Yeah.
like, they still came. It's like, of course they did.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
they care about
Exactly.
Yondu, but he was right. It's all
Right.
like he's
Yeah,
writing
yeah.
movies about like, will my friends still like me if I'm not like a funny
See?
asshole? And everyone's like, yeah, man, we love
we
you.
still love you for
That's
you.
great. I'm gonna start crying. That's amazing.
But I think that's what I love so much. So I think, yeah, like your personal experiences really shape who you are and how you perceive things. So yeah, I totally believe it when he says, like, 5 years ago, I could not have written this film. Because I would imagine coming into it when he was offered it originally, I think it was like, what, 2018, 2019, whatever it was.
Yeah. Before Suicide Squad.
Before Suicide Squad is like, yeah, dude, it would have been a starkly different Superman film.
He said he kind of would have made fun of Superman more. And he feels like with this, at this time, he doesn't need to.
No.
And the last thing I want to leave you guys on, which is so exciting, and I honestly had not thought about it in this way until right now, a Marvel DC crossover movie. We've talked about it our whole lives. And I know that I was considering it when like the DC Extended Universe, as it was called by fans making fun of it, like got started. And I was like, could we ever see Henry Cavill with crossing over with Chris Evans, Captain America? But I think now more than ever, if this Superman hits the way that I'm hoping it hits, we might get a Superman, Spider-Man. If they're going to do one, I think it's going to be just that because they're the icons.
Yeah, it's not going to be full blown. Yeah.
And think about this for a second. Like David Cornsweet's Clark Kent could be in a position where he is like a Tom Holland Spider-Man. Because when you think about Tom Holland Spider-Man, you think about how he fits into that franchise and what space he occupies. He is the heart. He is the icon. He could be the what's the word from Deadpool and Wolverine? The anchor being. Like he's just such like, and his depiction I think is so great of Peter Parker. Second only to Peter B. Parker from Spider-Verse, Jake Johnson. But no, really, like the Tom Holland is such a good translation of that. And David Cornsweet's could be of Superman. In Rolling Stone, there was a copy of the Superman Spider-Man crossover comic book on James Gunn's desk, and they were asking him about it. They're like, what about this? And what about that? And James Gunn basically said, we've talked about it forever. Everybody, all the fans have talked about it, and professionals have talked about it, but it would need to have a good excuse for existing. It would need to have a good story and not just be like, we're doing it. And and it's such a cash out. It's such a cash cow. It's such a cash grab.
$3 billion.
That fans are going to be rightfully cynical, I think, towards it. That you really have to. But then when I was thinking about these characters and specifically Cornsweet's Superman, I was like, but he could be such a good guy that like we not only accept it, we want to see him standing like this next to Tom Holland Spider-Man. Are you kidding me, dude? That might happen in our lifetimes.
Yeah.
Think about that. It would be the biggest heart movie. It would be like the great, like that would be such a celebration of these characters.
It would be, it's because now I'm thinking of like logistically, right?
Yeah.
Because Spider-Man's movie rights are with Sony.
Yeah, I don't give a shit. Don't worry about it.
No, I know. But
Hey, baby, they take care of it. Don't worry about
But
it.
that's the thing though, is like Sony would have to agree with it. And how much creative input is Sony gonna want because their ego is really big.
No, Sony. You cannot say nothing. You let him play. You do not say nothing. Hey,
Also,
James, hi, I'm one of the producers of Madam Web. Shut the fuck up. You can't, you can't, you have no input. I'm sorry. You just let James Gunn and people at DC Studios and people at Marvel Studios do that if they're going to do it.
Yeah.
And Sony, you get a little piece of the pie.
Yeah, no.
Sorry.
The
sorry.
only way
Just
that would
sign a
happen
check.
is if they get a big piece of the pie.
Yeah.
Sure.
You shut up. You let them do their thing.
Yeah.
Sony has no
Here's $1
creative
billion.
input, and it's only going to be Disney and Warner Brothers.
Yeah,
making
here's
the
$1 billion.
decisions.
I mean,
That's it.
And if there's anybody at Sony right now going like, ah, come on, guys, that's not fair. It is fair. I'm sorry. You guys did Kraven the Hunter. You got, you know what I
You
mean?
know,
Like,
that's
it's
five
fair.
action films you made.
You did Morbin Time.
Sure, those villain films have not been the worst movies ever made. Okay, sure, but you guys have Spider-Man and those are the things you made.
Yeah.
And then you go back to the Andrew Garfield years and like, those are the plans you had. Like Chris Cooper's Norman Osborn severed head is going to come back as Green Goblin. Like you guys don't know where you're done. You're done with it. So just let James Gunn. I mean, truly, if you go back and you read that 70s comic where they meet for the first time, it's so pure. And it's it's like, and the villains are Dr. Octopus and Lex Luthor. And you're like, it's so perfect. It's so perfect that you really just have to do sort of an updated modern version of that story. You know, yes, other characters will be in there, but it doesn't need to be a big Marvel Universe, DC Universe crossover. It needs to be, they're there.
I would even love something like that to be a short. A short before the movie.
Oh my God.
A short before the movie? How incredible would that be? Guys,
amazing.
I need to run a movie studio at this point. Like, what's going on here?
There's a Sony executive like, you know what? They were making fun of you, but this fucking Augustine's got some good ideas. So
let me email this guy.
A short animation crossover? Okay, what does he mean by that?
What are those words?
Carol, can you bring in a dictionary, please? This guy's cooking. This guy's great. It's like, which one's Augustine? Which one's Augustine's the guy with the hat?
The glasses?
The one with the glasses and the hat.
He's the tall guy,
He's
right?
the tall one with the hat.
tall one with the hat.
Oh my God.
Carol, can you get me Augustine Rios, please?
And then they're gonna call Adam.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what the fuck you want? Go run Nature Valley granola.
Anyways, I think we're very over time, but this was great, guys. I think we're all very excited about Superman.
Not at all.
We'll see you on the other side, brothers. See ya. It's gonna be great. That's all right. It'll be soon.
All right,
It'll be soon.
close down, Adam. Close this down.
I know. But of course, guys, let us know your thoughts in the comments below about everything that we talked about, all the topics, some movie projects that you would love to see DC make. If you have a favorite character, I know there's always things about like Static Shock and all these amazing characters, which I do think that they will get to.
I agree.
But let us know your thoughts. Check out everything else we're watching on Patreon and on the channel, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.
Chomp.
Heroes Reforged is gonna react. Heroes Reforged is gonna review. Heroes Reforged is gonna discuss. That's why we are watching.